Hello everyone, welcome to the spoiler talk for Ironheart. Finally, after, I don't know, 5 years or so, ever since the show was made, we're finally getting Ironheart, and it also feels like it's been about 10 since we've seen her in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. But that's just because of the way that the phases work now and how slow and bad everything has been. So it's kind of like, it feels forever since we had something. You know, I don't even remember when Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 released. That was also 5 years ago to me. You know, it's like, time is weird now because of the way that phases work, because you know, back in the day Marvel had like individual phases, and now it all feels really random. I mean, this thing finishes off phase 5, by the way. This, of all things, this finishes it off. It's like, it feels weird, you know, but who cares? Here we are, and I am in a bit of a sticky situation, if I do say so myself, because the thing is, if I don't like this thing, I am one of the mean things, apparently, according to the internet, because I just checked up online to see what people's reactions were, just to have a general thought, and I only saw one tweet, and it was like, if you don't like this, you are this. It's like, okay, but I don't like this. Look, I was not excited about it. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I was not excited when Ironheart was first announced, and I'm still not excited about the show, but I was gonna give it a fair shot, even though I didn't really like the character in Wakanda Forever, but I was gonna give it a fair shot nonetheless. Here is my fair shot. I didn't like the first episode. Granted, I've only seen the first episode, and it can go up from here, but who knows? So this episode basically starts off with Ironheart complaining, and it already makes me hate her character instantly, because she's like, would Tony Stark be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire? And I'm like, did you not watch Iron Man 3? Because yeah, because I know people will pick up that scene where it's like, he built this in a cave stuff. Don't use that scene as a comparison, because Iron Man 3 has a much better scene for comparison. That being the assault that he does. He goes to your, I don't know, American stores. I'm sorry, I don't know American stores, but he just goes to a store, picks up some stuff, and with that stuff, he takes out basically an army, a private army in that sense. That's what he takes out with stuff that he bought from the store that in total, I will say, didn't even cost $100, okay? With maybe $100, he was able to take on an army. That is Tony Stark. So even if he didn't have the billions, yes, he would still eventually become Tony Stark. However, afterwards, she also loses everything because she's been doing some kind of illegal stuff, more like breaking the rules kind of stuff, and that is the fact that she has been selling projects to people of other schools so that they can get an A, which is not allowed according to the rules, but she did it anyway. She's been caught. She's like, look, I just need another year in order to finish my project. I'm curious about what said project is. I don't know what that project is, and there's no way it's the Iron Man suit or Ironheart suit. My apologies, but it's no way it's the suit, right? Because that thing basically already works, so it can't be that. So I wonder what her project is that she's talking about, but she doesn't explain it. However, she gets kicked out because of the fact that, you know, she's broken the rules, which is understandable. Also, if you're such a genius, why don't you figure out other ways, legal ways, to make money? There are a lot of ways to make money for someone as smart as her. Also, she had a grant. That is, I will say it, that is privilege. That is full-on privilege, and you broke the rules. I don't feel sorry for her for this happening to her, because she's supposed to be smart, yet she acts like a big dummy. So then she takes the suit that she made with the grant and she flies away. What happened to the suit, by the way, that she had at the end of Wakanda Forever? Did she have to give that back? Also, why didn't Shuri help her? That is also a question that I have. Like, why didn't Shuri help her in order to at least set her up? Kind of like what Tony did to that kid at the end of Iron Man 3. You remember that one? Where at the end of that movie, he like decked out the garage? Why didn't Shuri do something like that for Ironheart, you know? In order to help her get started at the very least. Maybe this is just a negative thing towards Shuri, who knows? But anyway, she flies off. She has an AI. However, in the AI, she has to use her student ID in order to access it, which, yeah, you can already kind of see where that's going, right? Right? Yeah, her student ID gets revoked, so she crashes, obviously. However, there's also a group of terrible bad guys trying to break into a place terribly, and they see Ironheart fly over, and that becomes their next target because they need someone new in order to be able to do hacking and stuff like that. And since Riri is supposed to be a genius, like I said, supposed to be, because in this In the opening of this show, I will say this, Misty Knight is smarter than her. Luke Cage is smarter than her. Come on, dude, even Scott Lang is smarter than her. At least Scott Lang, when he did the crime, he actually also did the time. I'm just saying, when he did that, he also did the time. And she gets immediately upset. However, the bad guys do need someone new, because the fact that apparently Stewart, or as he likes to be called, Rampage, is not good at the job. So then Riri walks with the suit home. However, then a boy helps her carry her stuff home, which is nice of the boy. And then when she gets home, we learn that her best friend, which we saw flashes of at the beginning of the episode, died 5 years ago. Same with her stepdad. And after that, she doesn't get support from her family, so she goes out in order to buy some stuff. However, the guy who goes with her gives her a mixtape, which is nice, and they go shopping. However, Riri doesn't have the money for the stuff that she needs, which is once again her crying about money. Come on, you're a genius. You're supposed to be able to figure this stuff out, okay? Come on. However, then a shady guy named Xavier, he pays for the stuff. By the way, first name I don't think actually is Charles, but he pays for the stuff and then offers her to meet. And she goes there, obviously. I mean, shady guy pays for my stuff. Of course I'm gonna meet him alone. Like, why did she go alone? Does she not know about the dangers for a woman to be alone in a shady building? I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe she should have brought a friend. You know, that male friend could have been brought. Also, he didn't really seem happy about the fact that Riri actually talked with Xavier and stuff like that. So, you know what? We already get the feeling that this guy is very shady, even though the beginning already showed us that. However, she gets onto the elevator. However, then the elevator stops, and then the panel falls out, and there's a timer, and apparently there's a gas bomb that's gonna kill her unless she gets the gas mask out. However, what she does instead is she uses her smarts in order to be able to get the elevator door at least a little bit open, then pulls something off the wall, which, okay, I don't really know if she has the upper body strength in order to be able to do that, but whatever. And then she opens up the elevator door, and then the dude is like, fantastic. By the way, his name is Hood. And also, I actually looked this up because I completely forgot. Apparently, he was the main character of, Rise of the Beast. So that's nice. Nice to see him again, even though I completely forgot that he existed. But anyway, he's like, okay, now I want you to join us. And Riri is like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And then she wants to leave. However, then the dude is like, I got money and I'll pay you for the job. And she's like, so is that illegal stuff or is it a legal job? And he's like, no, it's illegal. It's theft, extortion, blackmail, all the other stuff. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Riri's like, okay, sure. And I'm like, why? Why are you saying yes to this? Okay. And I've seen people online compare this to Scott Lang. However, Scott Lang did not work with shady people in that sense, okay? At the beginning of Ant-Man, at least before Ant-Man, he did shady stuff because of the company that he worked for was officially doing shady stuff. It was kind of like a Robin Hood type of thing. And that's basically kind of what Ant-Man, at least in the MCU, has kind of always been, kind of the Robin Hood type of character. So it is different than when you do it like this. Basically, he does bad things in order to be able to, you know, help save the world. However, Riri obviously accepts because why wouldn't she? So she's gonna be a criminal now. And then at home, she's working on her suit and she listens to the mixtape that she got. However, there's a secret recording, I don't know if it's accidental or not, of Natalie, which causes her to have a bit of a panic attack and a little bit of a flashback about Natalie. And also the Hood is getting a new tattoo while all this is happening. And then to end the episode, we have an AI version of Natalie. And I will say this first episode did not hook me in. If this wasn't an MCU property and I didn't have to make videos about this stuff because I want to review everything in the MCU, whether good or bad, you know, I would have quit immediately and never looked back again. But I guess we gotta continue on into episode 2. Also, I was wrong. I looked it up actually. Xavier was actually the good guy that was with her, and apparently the bad guy was John King. I think he was the one actually that recruited her. So a little mistake, but I'm here to clear it up. Ah, I did it. I found it. Finally. Oh my god. Something to like in this show because it's gonna be difficult to get through this. This is kind of like Captain Marvel, where I didn't like really anything in that movie. We did have a little bit of Phil Coulson though, and that was nice. But outside of that, we didn't really have anything until we got to, what was that the guy called? I forgot his name. He's dead in Secret Invasion, but the Skrull. Him. He was the one that carries me through that movie because he's entertaining and I like him. And here we have Natalie, boys. I like Natalie. It's the only thing I like about the show so far, but I like Natalie. However, Riri wants to get rid of her. That's basically her plan. However, when she can't really do that, But she decides to hide Natalie and go to a bad guy meetup because we need to have something to do at the end of this episode, and that is we're robbing a woman named Sheila because she made this thing called Tunnel, which, sure, why not? It's an underground car thing. Don't ask me to fully understand it. I don't, okay? Would have been nice if they explained it instead of doing whatever it is that they do in this episode. You know, maybe explain it a bit more. Also, we got a backstory for the whole crew that I could not care less about, so that's fun. I kind of tuned out when this backstory was happening because I'm like, I don't care about any of you people. Nothing so far has made me care about you guys, so maybe that's gonna happen. Who knows? Maybe I'm gonna like some of them. Not all of them, though. There's one that annoys me. There's two that annoy me. The only one that actually might win me over is the second-in-command guy, as you could say. He might be the only one that wins me over to me liking him, but that's about as far as this group goes. I don't like the rest of it. However, the job is tonight, so we need to have something to do for the rest of this episode until we get to tonight, and Natalie has something special for us, and that is she has searched the black market for some tech that Riri needs in order to be able to fix her suit. Now, as some may think, I actually do not have a problem with that. I don't have an issue with her buying off the black market in order to finish up her suit. I don't have an issue with that. Like, there are certain things, shady things, that can be bent a little bit, like buying off the black market. Working with the bad guys while knowing that they are officially the bad guys is not a good thing. However, buying something off the black market, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. So we get a guy named Joe, and we spent about half of the episode with him. Why is beyond me, but we spent some time with him. I don't even know who this Joe guy is. The episode doesn't necessarily explain outside of the fact that he is pathetic, and there's a line in there where I'm like, okay, yeah, you're just race baiting for no reason at all, just to get clicks, and I hate it. However, she goes over to him, helps him a little bit. She needs some stuff, goes with him inside, and he doesn't have the stuff in there. He tries to pretend that he's not the guy, but he is the guy because he's like, I'm not the black market guy. It's like, I didn't say anything about black market. So then he's like, okay, I don't have the stuff here. We need to drive. So we go for a drive. Meanwhile, Natalie is stuck to the PC because of the fact that Riri had to take the suit with her. And she's like, how do I get out of this PC? Also, before that, she sends a bunch of text messages to Riri, which I thought was funny. Hey, it's me, Natalie. I finally figured out how to do text. Can you read them? Do you receive them? It's me, Natalie, by the way. I like that, okay? I like that. But anyway, eventually she gets to the projector for the mom, and the mom just instantly freaks out. However, she's cool with it, which, okay, fine, you know, no problem necessarily there, but I did like the interaction that they had. So eventually, Riri and Joe arrive at the place. They go inside, and he has a bunch of stuff downstairs, which is very shady, but who cares, you know? Joe doesn't seem like the guy to be a bad guy necessarily, okay? He probably just sells this kind of stuff potentially to bad guys. However, he's also like, so are you gonna use that suit to do good? And she's like, no, I'm building the suit because I can. It's like, oh, for crying out loud. Really? Like, at least when Tony made the Iron Man suit, he made it because of the fact that he had to, basically, as you could say, atone for the mistakes that he made in the past about the fact that his company has been selling to the bad guys. He's gonna atone for that, and that's why he made the suit. He didn't, like, she could have been like, yeah, I want to help people, kind of like Tony Stark did. That would have been good. That would have made her likable, but no, okay. Moving on, she eventually gets the parts that she needs. However, she needs to go for the job, so she finishes working on the suit, puts it on, which, by the way, another compliment I have to give the show, you know? Hey, like I said, I'm being fair here. While I wasn't excited going into it, seeing an actual suit, in a way, even though technically I feel like it's still CGI, but still, an actual suit instead of that nanotech stuff was refreshing. It made me happy. What can I say, okay? It made me happy. I saw her open the suit and, like, get into it and get the suit closing around her, and I was like, man, the good old days. Before every suit in existence was nanotech. I miss those days, you know, where you could just take off a mask instead of just having the nanotech go down and up and all that stuff. It's better this way. Look, I will compliment when I can compliment, which I have another compliment for this episode, because this episode is better than the first episode, but it also still repeats the problems that I had with the first episode. So then she heads over to the job, and she gets the drive from Slug, which also a little thing. Who names these people? Why is there a guy named Slug and then a woman named Clown? Like, who comes up with these nicknames? These are the dumbest nicknames I've ever heard of in my life. You should should do better at getting nicknames. Look at your leader. His nickname is Hood. At least that has something to it. Who calls themselves Clown? You don't even have clown makeup, okay? Just have some clown makeup at least. Like, do a little bit of Joker cosplay, okay? At least that way I can understand, you know? But like, whatever. You know what? These people, it feels like they just like to be insulted. But the plan goes in. The squad goes in. However, as Riri is flying to the location where she needs to go in order to be able to shut down the system so that Slug can hack it, she loses the drive that Slug gave her because of the fact that N.A.T.A.L.I.E just pops up in her suit. It's like, oh god. However, don't worry about it. N.A.T.A.L.I has a backup plan, which the team is not necessarily happy about because of the fact that, well, they don't like improv. However, just in the nick of time, she's able to release a car which causes the whole system to shut down for 2 seconds, and it allows Slug to get in. And he does. He actually does get into the system, which is nice, you know? And then afterwards, Hood appears in the car next to this Sheila woman and is like, okay, we want a piece of the tunnel profits, okay? Just 6-figure salaries. That's all we want. Sign this. Apparently she signed, so now it's good job, team. We're heading out. So at least we didn't necessarily do anything super evil, even though I don't really get it. Why or did we do all this trouble just to get a job, in a way? Like, in order to get paid. Like, what? I thought we were gonna steal stuff. Like, you're basically just like, hey, I want you to sign this. Like, what do you know about Tunnel? Maybe there's a backstory there. I'm kind of intrigued. But I actually did like the CGI in this tunnel bit. I thought it actually looked pretty good. I mean, it better. This has been shelved for 2 years. They've had 2 years to work on the CGI. It better look good. And I actually thought that it looked better than, you know, She-Hulk or something like that. So then Riri gets out and N.A.T.A.L.I appears again. And they're like, yay, we did it. However, then a guard appears. N.A.T.A.L.I freezes completely. So that's a bit of an issue. Also, Riri loses entire control of the suit. And then she gets saved by the Hood, who shoots the guy behind her and somehow curves a bullet, which is probably the power of the Hood. So sure, why not? You know, I've seen crazier tricks. I have watched Doctor Strange, actually. And then we have a little bit of a victory party. And also N.A.T.A.L.I later on is a bit worried about Hood. She doesn't trust him at all. Understandable. Another point for N.A.T.A.L.I as me liking her, because yes, you can't trust him. And then to end the episode, we basically see the fact that the Hood is destroying himself because his whole back is cracking open. And also that Joe guy goes over to his neighbor, who, by the way, is absolutely garbage. At least pick up the dog poop, okay? Just pick it up. Don't be like that. Just pick it up. Sorry. Look, I have a dog, and look, when I'm at like a field, I don't really see the need to pick it up necessarily. But if it's your neighbor across the street, you pick that up, okay? No, I'm gonna have my dog poop in your lawn because I don't want to have it on my lawn. It's like, what's wrong with you? You could just grab a baggie and pick it up. But anyway, he goes over to his neighbor and then he cuts her flowers. Sure, why not? Okay, bit weird. However, the one thing that I don't really like about this episode is that we focused a lot of it on this nobody character named Joe. Why? Why did we focus so, like, unless he becomes an important character later on, I will take everything back. So to anyone who has seen the show and it's like, he'll become important later on, sure, okay, fine. But like, why did we spend so much time with Joe? Like, in a sense, for this episode, I was kind of hoping when we saw Joe at the end, we were gonna get some big reveal or something like that, but we didn't get anything with Joe. So why did we spend so much time? We could have used that in order to give us more of a backstory on the tunnel stuff, but I guess that is for the next couple of episodes to do. Alright, here we are at part 2 of 3 of the talking points behind this season. Now, the first talking point, which was Riri becoming a criminal, I actually did agree with the masses about the fact that it was just absolutely stupid. However, at the end of the spoiler talk, I will actually talk about a better way to have done that kind of thing. And here we are at part 2. However, the thing that people made it out to be online, look, I never actually saw what happened until now. I only heard people talk about what happens at the end of this episode. And it kind of sounded like Riri Williams just went Punisher. In a way. Like, she just grabbed the gun and shot someone in the head. That's how people are talking about it, or stabbed someone to death. That is how people are talking about it. I'm gonna go on the defense of this one. Like I said, I'll give this show a fair shot, and I am doing that. And my fair opinion is the fact, not her fault. So episode 3 starts off with the fact that everyone is like talking about what they're gonna do with the money. And also Clown goes off to grab Hood's cloak, and she puts it on and then walks around, and then John comes in, who is not happy about it, smashes her head into the table. It's like, no, give that back. Do not steal that. However, then Hood comes down. It's like, hey, calm down, okay? Look, everyone, we have another job tonight, so spend the money however you want to spend it. We'll meet back up tonight. And I'm like, that is a stupid thing. If there's one thing that crime movies have taught me, it's the fact that if you pull off a crime and you get money, don't spend it. Wait with spending it, okay? Don't, like, instantly spend it. That's stupid. So Riri comes home and she has a little bit of an argument, and she's like, I'm not a criminal. And I'm like, yeah, you are. And then Natalie pops out and is like, yeah, you are. However, she does have a curiosity about Hood, which I am actually interested in too. You know, look, I don't care about this crew. Later on in the episode, they make me care about them, and I'm like, why don't you all just stop breathing? The only one I care about here is Hood. I'm interested to hear his backstory because it actually sounds interesting. The rest of the squad can die for all I care. This feels like Runaways again, which, by the way, I am actually, well, I was working on my spoiler video for Runaways Season 2. I was actually doing that yesterday. However, I had to put that on hold today in order to be able to do this. However, the day you are watching this, I am once again back finishing up the spoiler talk for Runaways Season 2, coming out in hopefully January, maybe February of next year. But that's how far I am into the MCU timeline, boys. I've just entered 2018. So Riri goes out, buys headphones for Xavier, who is not really happy about it. He's a bit sus about it, and also he's like, look, these headphones that I wear, the quote-unquote, as you called it, broken ones, yeah, they came from Natalie, so they're more important than anything else. And I'm like, I like that, even though technically it would be better if they worked, right? So then Joe comes by. Okay, he's back again, and he visits Riri because the fact that Riri allowing him to touch a piece of tech in the last episode makes him want to go and build stuff. So he has all of these blueprints with all of these ideas, and he gives that to Riri Williams, and he also is like, you are now working with me. Thanks for helping me stand up for myself. I like that when he went away. So then later on, Riri and Natalie have a talk with each other, and Natalie basically tells Riri how it is. You are a criminal. Like, you can't go around it. You are a criminal. And I'm like, I like Natalie a lot in this episode. Also, I liked it where she sneaks up with the suit. Boo! I thought that was funny. However, she also wants to spend the day with Riri before we have the nighttime heist, obviously. She wants to be a girl, which, yeah, that's never gonna happen. You're an AI. But still, you know what? Maybe we could get something out there. So, Riri is able to put Nat in a necklace, which, sure, okay. Why not? You know what? Like I said, I've seen Stranger Things, but you can do that kind of stuff, yet you were still broke, is beyond me. Okay, how that works is beyond me. You could make so many small things that would be very easy for you to make, and you could make a lot of money off of that to fund the big projects. But, I've already talked enough about that in episode 1. So we're hanging with Natalie, which is actually pretty fun until Natalie brings Riri to the garage where her stepdad and the real Natalie were shot up and killed. Which, by the way, this is officially, as confirmed in this episode specifically, taking place in October. And also, since Black Panther Wakanda Forever takes place in 2025, this is October of 2025. Meaning that in the timeline itself, it would take place after Miss Marvel, but before garbage. That being Secret Invasion, not She-Hulk, for anyone confused. Because I understand the confusion, but Secret Invasion is infinitely worse because She-Hulk has the Daredevil episode. That makes Secret Invasion just infinitely worse because there's nothing good about that thing. I cannot wait to get into that one, but I also kind of want to get it done. You know, I don't want to watch it, but I have to. But that gives Riri a bit of a panic attack. So then Natalie is able to snap her out, kind of like how the real one did it. So it's a little bit suspicious, but the explanation is the fact that, you know, in the earlier episode, she scanned her brain in order to make Natalie the AI. So I guess the memories that she has of Natalie were transported as well. And that's how the AI knows how to calm her down. That's at least the explanation that I'm going with. Because it doesn't really, like, I saw some talk online about the fact that Natalie was developed with the help of, like, magic or the devil. And I'm like, that's not really what happened, is it? However, after this episode, we are definitely going into the magic territory. So Riri returns home. Problem is, the cops are there, and apparently Rampage is dead, and they want to know what she knows about it, and she doesn't really know anything about it. However, she does once again have a bit of a panic attack because, like, oh my god, they killed him. And as later on confirmed, yeah, they did. They did kill him. So then Riri is like, okay, you know what, for the heirloom heist that we are gonna do, I'm gonna go and upgrade one of Joe's blueprints in order to be able to sneak something in order to get a piece of the hood from, well, the hood, I guess. I want to get a piece of his cloak, plain and simple. So she kind of starts working on that. Meanwhile, John comes into the hood and he's like, hey, I can't really find anything about our bad guy, quote-unquote bad guy. I can't really find any weaknesses or anything, so we are basically going in blind, and I don't like that, so maybe we should postpone it. However, However, Hood is then like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna allow that to happen. Okay, we have to. Initially, he's like, maybe, but then like someone on TV like complains about them and it's like, I don't know, we're gonna do it. It's like, dude, really? Okay, sure, why not? So we'll stick with the plan. So Riri visits Joe. However, Joe has a little bit of an issue because he put something in his arm, and that was not necessarily good. So while Riri tries to help him get that out, she finds some stuff, and it turns out that Joe isn't really his name because he has his dad in ashes in a bag, and on the bag it says Obadiah S. And I'm like, oh hey, Stain, the Ironmonger himself. He was able to build this in a cave. Yes, indeed, it's him again, but this time in a bag. I don't know how they were able to get his remains, but I don't know. Maybe I kind of just thought he like blew up, so I don't really think there were any remains left. But hey, maybe I need to rewatch Iron Man again. But anyway, yeah, he is Obadiah Stane's son called Ezekiel. Who names these people? It couldn't just be Oscar or something like that, or just Joe. You know, nah. His name is Ezekiel Stain. Sure, why not? Like, what the hell? But that is why he was worried about Riri in the last episode when she came with that suit, because like that suit is also why. And also apparently the whole Obadiah Stane storyline is like nonsense, because the official storyline that people know is the fact that he died in a plane crash when he died trying to kill Tony, which I thought was known because of the fact that he kept showing his bald head every chance he got. But I guess they kind of covered it up here how he died. But it is nice that Ezekiel actually knows about it and tells Riri how he actually died. So then he will decide to help Riri. However, do not allow that piece of like tech to fall into the cops' hands, because my DNA is on that as well, which means that they know that it was I who designed it, which that is going to definitely happen at the end of this episode. Like, you can't make a request like that without it happening. Also, we learned that Riri built the Ironheart suit because of the fact that her stepdad was a fan of Tony Stark. That's why she's building the suits. Like, yeah, you could do a lot of good with that suit, by the way. Just saying, you know, just saying. So it's time for the mission, boys. And Riri has a little bit of a laser under some biometric skin. Apparently, it's called biomesh. At least that is what I have written in the notes. Anyway, she got some biomesh in order to hide it from the bioscanners, because tech is not allowed in the place. Otherwise, the whole place shuts down. Which, by the way, with the whole like earpiece, isn't that tech as well? How are these people able to talk with each other? However, Riri goes a bit rogue and she jumps to the ocean in order to sneak into the location of the Hood and this hunter fellow in order to steal a piece of the cloak. So she sneaks in and she tries to take it. Meanwhile, Hood is like, hey, sign it. And Hunter's like, I'm not gonna sign it. You're gonna take this piece of paper with the money that I've set, or it's no deal at all. So that's a little bit of an issue. However, Riri accidentally sets off the scanners, which, look, these words are too big for me, okay? And that causes everything to hit the fan, because the fact that the whole team gets locked in and basically the air gets pulled out in order to kill them, which this is where I was like, I could not care less if you people died. You people can die for all I care. So the Hood goes and kills Hunter and also kills the security team that arrives later on. Riri gets trapped. However, she's able to escape, and then she gets caught by John, who then tries to kill her. However, as they are both suffocating, Riri's suit appears, picks up Riri, and flies away. This is where John dies, and this is actually what people have an issue with. Here's my defense. Simple as that. Riri was almost suffocated. She didn't have any control of anything. N.A.T.A.L.I.E basically was like, I'm picking up Riri and flying out there to carry her to safety. While she was getting carried out to safety, John died. Riri was not necessarily responsible. However, I do like how the end of the episode handles it. But sadly enough, John dies. We didn't get the person to sign, so now we leave. However, during the fight, Riri lost the biomesh, so that's gonna come back to bite her later on, because I don't think Ezekiel's gonna be her friend anymore. And then Riri gets home after the mission failed, obviously, and she has a huge panic attack about the fact that she forgot the biomesh, but also that in her mind she killed someone. She has a huge problem with it, and I like that. People made it out to be like she shot someone and then just walked away like nothing had happened. No, she actually has an issue with it, which I like. I'm a fan of this, okay? This is how you're supposed to do it. And technically, she was not entirely responsible, because first of all, he tried to kill her, and then the suit came in and flew away. She didn't necessarily have any control over it, looking at the fact that she was still trying to regain oxygen for her body to work right, you know? So I will defend this part. Now let's see about part 3, which apparently happens in the finale. At least that's a recent thing that I saw about people. And also potentially Mephisto's in this thing. So let's see what happens next. Also, I forgot to say that Riri actually did get a piece of his his cloak, so that is nice. And also at the end of the episode, potentially Mephisto, I'm just gonna say Mephisto, shows Hood maybe that Riri Williams was the reason that John's dead. Alright, little bit of a backstory on Hood, not very much though. It's mainly a little fun thing that he did with John back in the day. They broke into a place, however Hood got caught and John shot the guard and then they escaped. That's it. That's as simple as I can make it. 5 seconds of talking. Fantastic. Anyway, in present day, Hood kind of 95% knows that Riri is the one who killed John. However, he's not gonna act yet, not until the end of this episode, because if he acts now, what are we gonna do for the other 2 episodes? So he has to wait a little bit. It's gotta be a good boy, okay? Next episode, the squad will potentially be taken out, and then the finale, it's Hood versus Riri. And then we're gonna have, I don't know, like a 20-minute fight or something like that. Then we got the credits and we're done here. So Riri goes home. She analyzes the cloak. However, the energy comes from nowhere. They don't really know where it comes from. Actually, that is a horrible statement, because the fact that nowhere is actually a place in the MCU. Okay, they don't know where it comes from, but it comes from nothing that they know. So Riri goes over to Joe's place. However, the police have taken Joe because of the fact that they know who he really is, and they found some black market stuff, and yeah, he's in jail. So Riri visits him in jail, and he is very upset with her, hates her with his every being. Also, the Hood sees on the TV the fact that that guy was arrested and that his piece of tech was found at the crime scene, meaning that now it's 100%, 110% official that he knows, okay, Riri Williams killed my boy. So Joe says some stuff about Riri, and I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong, though. Let's be honest here. You're not wrong. From everything I've seen so far, she isn't the best person. She is a bit egotistical. I will say that. She's selfish. I will say that. Also, Riri later on goes back to the hideout. However, we're gonna get a new tech specialist, which Riri isn't really happy about. So Riri builds watches that will protect the people that she cares about. So she gives one to her mom, one to Xavier, who is a little bit suspicious, but whatever. However, afterwards, Natalie tells Riri that she needs to go to sleep. She can't really sleep. However, then her mom yells because of the fact that the watch activated because of gunshots on the television. So after that, she's talking a little bit about magic stuff. So her mom is like, I know the perfect place. Let's go. And we go to this magic shop and we meet a girl named Zelma. And it turns out Zelma can actually really do magic. And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Later on, she even mentions Doctor Strange and Camouflage. And I'm like, yay. All right. Good. References. Like it. I've got my spark of happiness. Even though technically, before watching this episode, actually while I was watching the episode and while some boring stuff was happening, I went on to Twitter and I saw a gif of Taskmaster being shot to death. So I'm already in a bit of a good mood, boys, because of that just perks me right up. However, we get the reveal that the cloak comes from a different dimension because it's unstable and it kind of keeps phasing in and out in that sense. It's not really magic that should be here. And also, technology never is bad. It's just depends on the person who uses it, and that is bad. Which I'm like, well, that's not entirely true. Nukes are always bad. You know, nukes are always bad. And also, technically, magic itself is not necessarily bad. It's the person who created it who created bad magic. It also sometimes just has to do with creators, okay? Just saying. Anyway, yeah, this is bad magic. This is some bad stuff. So then her mom gets upset with her. However, she flies away and breaks into Joe's workshop in order to figure out a way to destroy the piece of cloak that she has. And she tries everything that she can think of. Nothing works. So that doesn't really work out well. So after that, Riri has a bit of a panic attack because if she can't destroy the cloak, then what is she supposed to do? However, then Natalie flies off without her after letting her out of the suit and brings Xavier here. Problem is, Xavier is not really a big fan of AI Natalie. So that's a bit of a shame. And yeah, their friendship might also be a little bit destroyed. Who's to say? I mean, it probably is one of those dependent things. Like, it depends on what she does next. If she destroys the Natalie AI, the two of them can be friends again. If she doesn't, they won't be friends. And then to end the episode, we have the fact that Hood actually earlier in the episode visited Zeke in order to be able to ask him for help because the fact that is this new tech specialist. And Zeke initially did not really answer, but now he is going to help because he wants revenge revenge against Ironheart. Alright, understandable. So then the team breaks him out of jail, which that is way easier than I was actually expecting. Like, where are the guards? What happened? How is he able to just walk out of his cell and walk away? I don't care about tech specialists. Where are the guards? But afterwards, he gets his head shaven and then he lies in this machine, is in a lot of pain. And also, apparently, Hood told the squad that Ironheart killed John. So, we are about to reach the end. Ooh, it's a big one. Yes, boys, this is the biggest episode that we have so far. Well, longest anyway, that we had so far in the show. This one is 1 minute away from being an hour long. Well, technically, it's like 7 or so minutes, but that's because of like the 6 or 8 minute credits. So, we're close enough, but like, we're so close to an hour episode, but we weren't quite there yet. Anyway, this episode starts off with Natalie on a roof thinking about what happened and then being kidnapped by Slug. And Riri's inside of the, I forgot what it was called, fast food restaurant. Let's say that one, okay? And she has met up with Zelma, and Zelma might think that actually the one who the cloak belongs to is actually Dormammu. And it's like, oh, hey, I actually watched Doctor Strange last month. And, you know, for the review and spoiler talk, which could come out in either October or November. I forgot which one it was. I'm gonna say October, but there's a chance it's November of this year. But it's already been finished. I work on these very hard. I have not really had much sleep, but that's also because it's really hot. So I can't sleep when the weather is hot. I cannot sleep, sadly enough. But anyway, that's why also this whole stuff is very much in my head. But it's not him, by the way. And also we get a reference to Caecilius from Doctor Strange. So that was nice, you know, the forgotten bad guy of that movie. Anyway, then the Blood Twins enter and tell everyone to leave. Hurt one guy, and everyone does leave. Even Zelma leaves. And then Riri fights them off. And when she realized that she has no chance but has an ace down on the floor, she's like, alright, shoot me. And then when she does, it turns out that the watch was on the floor, so they get bubbled up. Alright, good. Afterwards, Clown comes in and bombs the place. Well, kind of bombs the place. Small bombs, throws them around. And then Riri's like, yeah, but actually, you know, Hood kind of killed Rampage. And then she shoots one of those, like, I think it was either a gas tank or like a fire extinguisher. Either one of those two. Shoots those at Clown in order to knock her out. Then she tries to escape. However, then we have Slug who comes around the corner and drives. Meanwhile, this Natalie in the suit has figured out the saw function, so buzzsaws her way out and flies up, breaking the back of the truck. And then Riri smashes the truck with her suit and it flies over. Problem is, he's alive though. Slug, sadly enough, survived. Bit of a shame. But after Riri does the intimidation move, he runs away. So he's gone as well. However, then she flies off but gets shocked. So it's like, ah boy, we're not done yet, are we? Nope, because we have Zeke back as well. And apparently what he did was he gave himself kind of bionic electro powers, basically. And Riri doesn't really stand a chance. Her power is low and Zeke shocks her. And I'm like, how though? Please explain to me how. Like, how did her suit not recharge? I remember that from the first Avengers movie where Iron Man is like, ah, the suit power is low. And then he gets shocked by Thor. And it's like, oh, well, would you look at that? Full power. You know, that kind of stuff. Why didn't that happen here? Why didn't her suit just charge up? I don't know. Maybe she didn't really have that kind of stuff inside of the suit. I have no idea, to be honest, but I feel like it should have charged up the suit. Anyway, afterwards, he basically rips the suit off her and then tells her to leave Chicago because of the fact that he doesn't want to kill her. So he walks off, and then Riri goes home and has a bit of a panic attack in front of her mom, and her mom is like, oh, my beautiful girl. So then Riri's like, all right, we need to leave now. And then her mom is like, no, you always run away. Why not just stand up and fight for once? And I'm like, okay, that's really bad parenting technically, because, you know, it could lead to her death, but also I like it. And also we get the other real reason why she built the suit. It wasn't just because of the fact that her stepdad was a fan of Iron Man. It was actually also to protect her mom after Natalie and her stepdad were killed in the drive-by, which I really would have liked to know more about and who did it, but whatever, especially because it happened during the snap, so I would have liked to just have seen that. You know, this series feels like a lot of missed potential, I'll just say that. So then her mom takes her to her stepdad's garage in order to build a new suit. However, she's then having a bit of a panic attack, so Natalie shows off some Gary flashbacks to motivate Riri, which eventually works, and she's building and building. However, she's not really doing all that well. Also, Zeke comes back and he's like, hey, killed Riri, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. However, he gets a bit suspicious because the dude doesn't, the only thing he basically says is like, don't worry about it. He doesn't really have a story. However, then Clown covers for him, and that's because of what Riri said actually to her. So she goes over to Slug and is like, I need your help in order to find autopsy reports. So she wants to know about Rampage's death. So Riri tries to build the suit, but it's not necessarily working the way that she wants because she needs magic. So she invites Zelma in order to be able to help. Also, Xavier's headphones finally run out of juice, I guess. And then he opens up the box that he got from Riri with a note inside. He reads the note, and that's basically it for now. So then later on, the Hood is like, okay, we have our plan, we have our target, let's get him. And then Clown is like, so you killed Rampage, didn't you? Throws down the autopsy report. And at that point, he still denies it, but he then fires everyone because he can't have stuff like that happen, okay? They need to be a unit. They need to be a team, but they're not a team. So yeah, be gone. So then later on, Xavier arrives in order to join the club of building a new Ironheart suit. And I've seen actually recently on Twitter as well, comparison. That was actually while I was watching this episode, while they were doing the montage of building stuff, I was actually a bit on my phone scrolling through Twitter, and I saw actually people comparing this scene to Tony in a cave, and I don't think that the comparison is fair because Tony didn't really have much in that cave. By the way, I find it stupid that everyone uses that he built that thing in a cave when that whole thing is about the mini arc reactor that Tony has in his chest. He built that in a cave with a box of scraps. That wasn't necessarily referring to the first Iron Man suit. So I hate the fact that people use that as an argument when, like I said, the Iron Man 3 argument would have worked better. But like, Tony had a much worse situation to build the arc reactor and the first suit, okay? He did not have the tools that Riri has at her disposal. I'll just say that. Also, Zeke is prepared to leave because he also declined the offer from Hood. However, then the neighbor across the street makes him very upset and he's ready to shock her flowers. However, he can't use his powers, sadly enough. And then the Hood drives up and is like, look, I control you now. Get in the car. And he actually does. Against Zeke's will, he is now moving and doing exactly what Hood says. And they are gonna go for the final mission. So they arrive at a mansion and Zeke breaks in, and then they go inside. Zeke and Hood take care of everyone outside, and then it's like, you stay out here, make sure that nobody disturbs us. I'm going inside. So Hood goes inside, finds the target. However, just like the last one, doesn't want to sign. And then we get the big surprising reveal that I couldn't care less about, and that is the fact that it's his dad. And I'm like, we still haven't gotten the backstory on this guy, and if we don't get that in the next episode, this show is gonna lose points. I'll say that right now. Look, I will also say this, it's not as bad as I initially thought it was going to be. I enjoy the show. It's just there are things that I don't enjoy about the show. So for me, right now, I'd say it's sitting at about a 5 or maybe a 6. Let's say low 6 for me right now, score-wise. So that final episode either be a magnum opus or this thing is not getting anything higher than a 6. But then eventually the dad signs and then he kicks him out of the house. Also, he's starting to get possessed by the cloak in that sense. So then Riri, she sees a car and I'm like, did she just turn her suit into a car? No. She rips the car apart and uses it in order to make the new suit, and she has my weakness, boys. I cannot deny it. She has my weakness. Okay, she also has a girl in glasses, but I'm not attracted to black women, so for me that is it's a little bit of a confusing one for me because like, but it's a girl in glasses and that's what I'm attracted to. But that's what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is the new suit colors, because man, it's black and red. Look, I'm a weakness. I have a weakness for black and red, okay? That is my color scheme. It's the color scheme that I've always loved ever since I watched the 80s, you know? And also, when I was younger, I didn't know that was gray and black. Instead, I thought it was lighter black and then darker black for the 18 van. But anyway, black and red, that is my color scheme. I love that color scheme, and I hate this. That she picked that, because I now have to love the suit. Look, I think the suit looks cool. Also, little bit of a thing, Transformers fan and all. Also, the Hood is also a Transformer. It was an actor. No. Also, the Hood is an actor in a Transformers movie. However, I'm not really talking about that. It's just the wheels at the back of the feet, okay? It's RC from the Bumblebee movie Cybertron scene. And while that scene has been poisoned by the internet, because apparently that's the only good thing about Bumblebee, even though I like the rest of the movie more than the Cybertron sequence, when I saw her having the wheel at the back, like like as a heel, I was like, that's RC from Bumblebee. Wow, that's pretty cool. I just had to mention it, okay? I had to mention it. That is RC from like the Bumblebee movie. I love it. I love the new suit. And also, we need a finishing touch, which is the magic part. However, Zelma does warn that in order to use magic, it's kind of like an exchange. You give something and you take something. So she puts the magic on her, and as she's doing that and doing the spell, AI Natalie sadly enough dies. So while I think the suit looks absolutely fantastic, I will say this, they just killed off my favorite character. I am not gonna go into the final episode with a happy mind, but let's see. Hey, fair shot. So far, I've enjoyed it more than I thought I would. But this does not spell good things if they killed off AI Natalie. God, it's just like the rest of them, for crying out loud. Ugh. Alright, this episode does not end well. I hate the ending. It is so stupid. So, what you're telling me is that she learned nothing on this whole journey. Cool. Alright, don't go and sign contracts with bad guys. That was the moral of the season. She did that at the beginning, learned her mistake, tried to fix her mistake, does it again. Okay. Even worse this time around. Anyway, let's start off, okay, with the beginning of this episode, which is the fact that back in the day after, you know, the robbery failure, Hood ran away and met Mephisto and made a deal, and that's how he got the thing. So then in present day, Hood threatens Zeke about the fact, like, if Riri is alive, I am going to kill you. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. She's dead. Please don't hurt me. But I tried to hurt you, but it didn't really work because you control me. I don't know why I thought it was going to work, but it didn't work. Like, how stupid is this Zeke guy, okay? Is he dumb? Because he tries to attack. It's like, he controls you. How stupid are you? So then Riri tries to get Nat back, but that does not really work, sadly enough. And she's like, I need that cloak. So she gets into the suit, and she goes after Hood. And when she arrives at the bar, she sees Zeke, has a little bit of a fight with him, and then kicks him in the nuts, and then overrides his thing. Which, by the way, that guy ain't having kids, because I don't care if you held back. That is a metal foot, okay? That's a metal foot. There are no more kids in that thing, okay? You crushed him down there. You crushed him good, okay? He's not having any more kids. But the fight overall was fine-ish. I mean, she still did not install the whole electricity actually powering her up thing. Guess she's still into solar power, I guess. And then after that, she goes downstairs in order to fight the Hood, who is like, oh, hey, you're alive. Okay, let's fight. And he goes invisible, and she instantly, with the magic stuff, knocks that out. It's like, oh, okay, so that's his party trick. Now he has basically nothing outside of bullets he can move. But, like, I don't really know if he's gonna be much of a threat. Yeah, about that, this dude just goes feral for no reason at all. Like, he goes fully feral. And then Riri's only job is to blow herself up. But she's alive. And then she's crawling. And then he's ready to kill her, but it turns out it's a hologram. The whole blowing up part was a hologram. It's like, sure. Like, I don't know how she pulled that off, but why not? And then afterwards, she rips the cloak off of him and leaves him. Goes upstairs, sees Mephisto, calls him Dormammu. He feels insulted. He's like, you can call me Mephisto. And I'm like, you are like 15 shows too late. What are you doing here now? You are so late. You were supposed to be in WandaVision. I don't care about you anymore, okay? And I actually never wanted you in the MCU to begin with. I will say that right now. Because the only thing I know about Mephisto is actual hell called, I think it's called One More Day. I think that was the one. Isn't that where he, I'm talking about the storyline where he basically splits Mary Jane and Peter in order to bring Grandma and May back, you know? That storyline is so dumb, okay? So dumb. And I'm not gonna be happy if this happens again, okay? We're not gonna do that. Just so you know, we're not gonna do a comic book adaptation when we technically did it in the last Spider-Man movie. We're not doing it again. I don't want an adaptation of that stupid story. However, he's here obviously to make a deal, and he can give her back what she wants. And then we see her in the future, and she has comic book hairstyle, which I saw some people online getting a little bit hyped over, while I was also actually putting the pasta that I made today, macaroni, in bags so that I could put it in the freezer. And also some fried rice into bags so I could put it in the freezer. And we just see her. Then Nat shows up and she's like, yay, you're back. But it's actually Natalie. It is not the AI. It is actually Natalie, which means she made the deal with the devil. And I hate that. I hate that. I hate that. And then in the post-credit scene, the Hood goes to Zelma for magic. And he's like, I want to see the stuff in the back. She's like, how do you know about the stuff in the back? So I guess we haven't necessarily seen the last of him. And I hate this. I hate this. this? Why can't we just have a show that just ends? What is this setup for nothing? You're not getting a second season. We all know that. I don't think you're ever getting a second season. This show is not good enough to have a second season. But just like all the other shows, it fails at the end. I was actually in an upward trend, by the way. I will say that. These last 2 episodes put me in an upward trend. I was even considering giving this show a 7 out of 10. Yeah, that's not happening now with the way that it ended. Okay, so in the beginning, she makes the mistake of aligning herself with bad people. And then when everything bad happens, she decides to be the good person and try to stop the bad people. Cool. Now that she's lost her AI, she's going to go into bed with the devil? What? You learned nothing. You make the same stupid mistake. This show is not good. Alright, but that's the end. That's the end. That's the end of the spoiler talk, technically, of like all the episodes. We're done. We made it through it. Yes, pat on the back for all of us. I need to make my egg. But first, I would like to say the overall thoughts on this season with the spoilers and all that stuff. So, it started off terribly because of the fact it disrespected Tony and only really boiled him down to his money instead of actually his genius, which is the more important part about him, you know. And then she goes into bed with criminals, which, by the way, I will just say this. If they had made it so that they pretended that the people they were going after were the bad guys and kind of tricked Riri, I would have liked this a lot more. She would have figured out she was dealing with bad people and then she takes them down. I would have liked that. I know you could say it's basic, but it's like you're going into bed willingly with bad people. That does not make you a good person. And yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the final episode, he's like, you're a criminal. Not necessarily. I mean, technically she's still stealing, but she's stealing from a criminal. That's not really something that I really care about, to be honest. Like, if you steal, like, materials from criminals in order to make an Iron Man suit, I couldn't care, okay? I could not care less about that. But, like, she tried not to be a criminal. And then after, also, by the way, at the end, you see her get the scars that were given to Hood. So, yeah, okay. I hate everything about this. Now, people are saying, oh, season 2. And I'm like, no. What would be interesting is maybe like a mini-series. I don't know, maybe some mini-series where we have like an Avengers type of series. I've seen people online call it Champions, and I understand why they call it that, because you cannot call it Young Avengers anymore since everyone is in their 30s right now, because of the fact that it's been going on for 5 years and they're not Young Avengers anymore. They are basically the same age as Steve Rogers was when he joined the Avengers, so that's fun. And I wouldn't mind seeing like a Champions series where basically we get the side characters to go up against Mephisto, potentially, you know. And also, this season did not do what I want to do, and that is actually get some backstory on the main bad guy, because God, he's awful. That is another down point in this season, okay? I mean, the actor, don't know his name, but the actor, I don't even know what he's called in Transformers, to be honest. He does the best that he can do with the material that he's given. He's just given nothing. I don't care about him. I don't care about his crew. I don't care about really anyone in this show outside of AI N.A.T.A.L.I.E. That's the only thing that I care about. Sure, the ending teaser, I am interested in that. I don't really care about Ironheart's deal with Mephisto, though. I truly don't care. But like, I'm interested about the Hood and Zelma in the future. Wouldn't mind see what becomes of that. But like, I don't care about Ironheart at all. This show is just average. Painfully average. Well, slightly above average. I'll say that. It had some fun. It did. But seeing people rank this above a lot of other stuff, no. Also, if you want to have some black characters, now I don't really know any black women though who have had standalone stuff in the MCU now I think about it. But you got Luke Cage, which has Misty Knight in it. So that's pretty good. Okay, Misty Knight's a great character, but I would highly recommend you watch Luke Cage or Cloak and Dagger. Now, the thing is, season 2 of Cloak and Dagger, at least here in the Netherlands, is not available on Disney Plus, so that's gonna be a little bit of a problem. But even then, first season solid too. And you have a black character with Tyrone Johnson, and also technically you have a female character with Tandy Bowen. So you have that, you know, there is some of that. But overall, for me, this show did not do it. It is another one of those, yeah, okay, shows. That is basically my reaction. Like, okay, watched it, off the board. Okay, I did a review and a spoiler talk of it. I'm done. I'm done. Okay, have fun. Okay, good. This show is not that good. The score that I give it is going to definitely be a 6 out of 10. This is actually one of the first times where in a spoiler talk, I'm actually saying the score that I would give the show, because I just didn't enjoy it. There was, well, there was enjoyment, but like the beginning and the end were trash, and then in the middle, it had some enjoyable moments. I'll say that. I really like Natalie. The actors knocked it out of the park. I'm a big fan of her, okay? But outside of that, there's nothing here. So I'm just gonna call it a day here. So, thank you all so very much for watching, and let me know your spoiler thoughts in the comment section down below about Ironheart. And with that being said, thank you all so very much for watching, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. And if you did, please like button, subscribe if you're new, if that's alright. Turn on notifications. Don't forget, check out the Let's Play channel, link in the description and at the end of the video. And next week, we actually potentially have something big coming out. Now, I can't confirm it fully because I have no idea how next week is gonna go, because I don't really, I can't really see how next week's gonna go, but potentially next week could be my review of Superman, or you're gonna have to wait a week for that one, which I am absolutely super excited about. And if that doesn't happen, we're going to go with an actual good black character next week, that being Luke Cage. By the way, if Luke Cage doesn't come out next week, it's the week after that. But Luke Cage season 1, a way better season compared to this thing, okay? That one is actually legitimately good. So it's either next week, it's either we're gonna go with another black character, or, and a really good black character that is, or we're gonna go with Superman, which by the way, I'm super excited for Superman. I'm not wearing my Superman shirt today. That is actually a Tuesday and Friday time when I wear that shirt. But yeah, anyway, super excited about Superman and also Fantastic Four. That's actually the next MCU thing that I'll be taking a look at in the new releases, obviously, because the fact that that is coming out next. So Luke Cage and then Fantastic Four, I guess. So hopefully I'll see you guys for all that comes out. And like I said, I have been doing a lot of MCU stuff. I am done with every project that takes place canonically in 2017. I am now busy with Runaways Season 2, which I'm gonna be continuing on while you are watching this on Thursday, the 3rd of July. Because if you watch this on any other day, I am probably finished and on to Season 3 of Runaways. So yeah, bye!